Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica, Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 76 of Adeptus Podcastus because someone has to keep count of all the numbers. Joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Hello everyone.
And our special guest this episode, as promised in the previous episode, is the author of many things, some of which have been memed, some of which have been adored. Ladies, gentlemen, Xenos of all ages and everything in between, I give you David Guymer.
Hi everyone.
Yes, we'll get to some of those. We have got your questions, and yes, there are many memes, but we'll get to that. So, how's everyone doing this evening?
Very hot. I'm melting.
It was a heat wave last week. Chill.
I feel like a Valhalla Ice Warrior stuck on Talon.
Well, Catacan, I think it's the Catacan humidity.
That's pretty accurate, to be fair. So, in the news, before we start, just want to make a point. Oh, well, not a point. Just make note of the fact that in the last period since the last episode was recorded, Jeff Robinson, better known to some as In Control, who worked with Warhammer community on some events, has sadly passed away. Whilst obviously we didn't get to work with him personally, I know he was a valued member of the community, and so we just want to pass on our condolences. I believe there is a charity available through the Warhammer community article if you wish to support it. Just wanted to start with that. I know it's not the happy opening, but first thing needed to be said. So, in the rest of the news, a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks. Should we start at the back and work forwards, or start at the front and work backwards, do you think?
Whichever's easier.
Well, there's a lot of Sigmar at the back and a bit of everything at the front, so it depends on how much Sigmar you can stand talking about.
I can imagine you and David are going to be talking a lot about a certain bear eater later, so...
There's going to be a lot of Sigmar in this episode, people. Sorry. I make no apologies for that because I don't get a lot of chance to talk about it on this show. So I'm just going to dive at the back and start with the open day. There was an AOS open day pretty much straight after the last episode was recorded. In brief, we have a new death character returning, released at the end of Forbidden Power, which a lot of people think is Vladbon Karstein, but we're not sure. We got a new Ogre Tyrant, which looks amazing. We got the first preview for Beast Grave, which is the new Warhammer Underworld set, and there was more on that later. We got 2 new battle tomes, Orruk War Clans, which is pretty cool, and Cities of Sigmar, which is the best thing. Genuinely the best thing, because it's basically how to collect order without a conscience, and I love it. We got to see a bit more stuff coming for Warcry, mainly the Shattered Stormbolt terrain set, and that was about it. But yeah, I really cannot wait for that Cities of Sigmar battle tome at all. I just want it. I want it now.
I want to see inside it. I want to see what's in and what hasn't made it and how they work.
I feel like what my sort of speculation is any army that had a faction will survive. Anything that didn't will be cut. So things like Skewered Privateers, Darkling Covens, Dispossessed, Lion Rangers, Phoenix Temple, they'll make it in, but the bits of like High Elves, Dark Elves, the Empire that weren't in one of the factions, like the Archers, the Bolt Throwers, and things like that, they'll be what's getting cut. Though there may be some exceptions on either side of that. I don't know yet. Either way, can I wait? Can I wait at all? Give it to me now. That made to Order for Chaos Sorcerers has been and gone, unfortunately, so I can't talk about that. Working forwards, the next thing we got was some new battle system models. We got our first look at the Sisters Repentia.
Oh, yeah. These have been confusing quite a few people because of the fact they got interface plugs.
Yeah, I saw a bit of drama about this. Like, is this a new thing for Sisters? Have they always had this power armor interface? And all this
not
stuff?
Not according to the old models or art. So I'm guessing this is some kind of retcon, or could be just some design choice stylistically.
It could be both, because there's no point saying that it could be a total retcon, but it could also be a way of visualizing the black carapace in a way that maybe just hadn't been thought up when those models were designed 20 years ago. But since there is no
have black carapace.
Sorry, power armor interface, not the black carapace. Sorry. Space Marines have the black carapace, which gives them their power armor interface. But the Sisters don't have one, so they needed something to represent that. And maybe this is their way of doing it, and they just hadn't come up with it before.
I'm sure it'll be explained in the Codex.
I don't doubt it. And maybe because we've only seen it on Repentia, they're actually like Repentance studs of some sort, as opposed to being a power armor interface. Who knows? Oh no, actually, sorry, wrong. It
says on the article.
It does, yeah. Exposed plug ports that would normally enable a Battle Sisters muscles to work in tandem with the power armor, because other agents of the Imperium, such as Inquisitors, don't require the full interface of a black. So maybe we'll see this on Inquisitor models in future as well.
Someone pointed out is pretty much the exact same interface with power armor that they have with on the Marines from StarCraft.
Is it? I admit I've not really looked at StarCraft.
Yeah, there was like the cutscene for StarCraft 2, like Wings of Liberty, I think it was. Got a guy, being fitted with power armor, and he's pretty much naked, but he's got these interface plugs on him when they fit the armor on. So,
yeah, fair enough. That would make sense. But in general, the Repentia look well, like you'd sort of expect Repentia to look.
I've seen a few mixed reactions to them. Like, I've seen some people saying that they're not as good as the old ones, but I've seen some people also saying that they like the new dynamic posing and how wild and untamed they look. I mean, I think they probably look better in hand. I think we have to admit, because all we got really is these 3D renders, isn't it? So we haven't actually got a physical model. So it could be one of those instances where the model looks better than the render.
Yeah, so and that comes up a lot. That happens a lot with miniatures. I forget which the other one was quite recently.
Yeah. So I'm going to hold. I think it was Sanguinius. Yeah.
So I've not actually seen them myself yet. Have they been shown painted, or have we just seen grey?
It's just the computer models. No
gray.
Physical sculpts and no paint.
Yeah.
Just grey.
Yeah, so nothing looks that great, grey, does it? I'm sure once they're painted and real, like you say.
Yeah, there's a few things that look great before they're painted, but not many, I'll give you.
I mean, if you've got crap painting skills, then everything looks better before it's painted.
No comment. If you're of a gaming mind, Warhammer 40k Mechanicus has picked up the Heretic expansion. If that is your thing, I admit, I never got into Mechanicus because I don't have time for video games. But it seemed like it was an all right game. I think we talked about it in a previous show, and it was just a bit easy.
Yeah, basically, you get to a certain point, and you're effectively one punch manning every Necron you come across. But
you can now have a Xenorite discipline for your tech priests, custom augments or brand new custom augments, and you get to actually explore the interior of an Arc Mechanicus. So maybe there'll be something interesting there, even if you're not playing it, you just want to learn about the Arcs Mechanicus.
Hopefully. I mean, I'm very skeptical when it comes to certain 40k games, considering that a few recently have been very sketchy in regards to accuracy and stuff.
The less said about backflipping Terminators, the better.
I was thinking more in regards to Inquisitor Martyr, personally. That random branch of the Inquisition having its own chamber militant, and it's like, no.
Like I say, the Necromunda one is the one I'm looking forward to, I think.
Oh, have we heard any more about that as of late?
I'd heard about it a while ago, and then I just saw it in last month, for this month's White Dwarf. And when we had some screenshots and a little bit of detail about, which gangs are going to be in the opening release.
I've got White Dwarf this month, and I completely missed that, probably because I was too busy reading the Indomitus Crusade section.
Oh, it's right at the back, so it's possible you've not reached it yet.
Possibly, yeah. Though I am sad to report, Dawn of War 3 fans, that Gabriel Angelos does not have the ability to do backflips in Index Blood Ravens. I am sad to report he does not do backflips.
It was nice to see Index Blood Ravens, though, wasn't it? It's
frustrating in some ways because it had no new data aside from the short story where they got their gene seed from the Custodes, which again told us nothing aside from they don't like Custodes.
If they told us, though, take all the... It's going to be something bad.
We don't need to know their full origin story. I mean, I remember Laurie Golding kiboshing the Thousand Suns theory. I care, but I also don't care what their origin is. But we didn't learn anything like about what they're doing now, what their Primaris stance is, or anything like that.
The answer is simple. They're Ultramarines. Like everything else.
Oh.
I think they're Dark Angels. That's my opinion.
I'd be cool with that. It would be interesting to try and rework them in terms of the Fallen and their like communion between all of the Unforgiven, but I'd be down with it.
That explains how Luther got out. It's basically the Blood Ravens nicked him.
Approved. There you go. Seal of approval. Right, what else have we got? Mechanicum Knights Moirax, if you're a Forge World person. So basically super duper armagers for 30k.
Oh, there was an upgrade for Adeptus Titanicus for the Vortex missile.
Yeah, I think its official name, I think, is the Warp Missile Rack. Which is
Vortex missile sounds better, though.
Well, yes, but, got to do these things officially.
I know, but still.
Yeah, the Ever-Chosen Painting Competition came and went. I hope anyone who entered did well. And I look forward to seeing the winners in the worldwide vote whenever that comes around. Should be a lot of fun. We also have word of what's coming soon. So if you're a Warcry fan, rejoice, because the Unmade, the Death Warband who wear their faces as belts, and the Splintered Fang, the snake ones, are coming to Warcry very, very soon, as well as a new Necromunda Warband. So good segue talking about the Necromunda video game. In the Palanite, not Palatine. I always thought it was Palatine. It's not. The Palanite Enforcers, which we saw a while ago, are now on their way out.
Yeah.
And Tumbleweed. I was expecting a response to that.
Moving on.
Moving on then. Moving on to more familiar territory for our author friend. We have the Black Library Novella Series 2. I don't think you're writing in one of these, are you?
No, it looks like a lot of new people, actually. I mean, there's Graham McNeil has one and Danny Ware has one, so I don't have it in front of me, but there's a lot of
Graham Lyon, Nick Horth has one.
Graham Lyon, Nick Horth.
We've got Nate Crowley, Eduardo Albert, Thomas Parrott, Steve Lyons.
Yeah, so Steve Lyons and Nick Crowley, they've written before, I believe.
And there's also Denny Flowers doing a Necromunda story.
And Jamie Crisali for a Warcry story.
So, yeah, I don't know this for a fact, but maybe they're some of the people who came in through the last submissions window, perhaps.
Possibly, but they're coming with a very interesting set of stories, I will say. So Isha's Lament is basically the story of the Eldari Ranger in Blackstone Fortress.
I want to read Nate Crowley's one. About
Severed, I was coming on to that. That's the Vargard Oberon novel.
From the Necron's perspective.
And I've seen people complain that that's not Vanguard Oberon on the cover.
I mean, it's not, but it's the perspective. It's not necessarily all about Oberon. It's from his perspective, talking about what it's like to be a Necron. But it's a story about loyalty, love, and what it means to have a soul. That's a bit deep for a 40k novel.
Necron love story. Could be.
It's a bit deep for a novella.
Oh no. I know a very Necron-oriented person, and oh no. Moving on.
Personally, I'm very excited to.
I'm interested in it. I'm very interested because I like Zantrek and Oberon, but yeah, I just know a very Necron-oriented person is going to have a field day.
I'm excited for Wreck and Ruin by Danny Ware because, as she confirmed on Twitter, that is a direct sequel to Bloodied Rose, which I'm very excited about because I love that story. Which also happened to be the one that had the Cornet talk.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
On the Sigmar side, Thieves' Paradise interests me because I know how well Nick Horth writes Callous and Toll, so I'm just interested. Code of the Skies looks fun. It's a Caradron story where you put the code of morals up against, finding out exactly what they could. Well, a centuries-old mystery versus the code with a massive skyship battle to boot. So, yes, just yes. Even as an Elves fan, yes.
We've even got a Mordian Iron Guard story. which is a huge thing considering that Mordia was captured by Chaos.
Well, Cadia blew up. They still get novels.
True, but I think this is like the first story that features the Mordian Iron Guard.
For a while, there was an Iron Guard novel. Might even have been by Steve Lyons. I can't remember. But yeah, there was an Iron Guard novel from a few years back.
Yeah, and we've also got 40K's version of Thor from Avengers Endgame with this Necromundan bounty hunter who is exceptionally hungover and would be amazing if the room would just stop spinning. So, yep, approved.
It's like, hang on, Cal Jericho wants his gimmick back.
Quite so.
I wonder if these two will ever meet. That'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, it probably would, because Cal Jericho's got a novel of his own, hasn't he, coming up?
Yeah, there he is, Josh Reynolds.
I've got it.
Man, the legend.
Good friend of ours, Josh Reynolds, been on the show before. But that segues actually into Black Library, because there's a lot of things. The Coming Soon page has updated, so Remleiz has not stopped shouting about since it happened.
Which has been about 10 minutes ago.
Yes. But most of this is stuff we already have seen before. Like, we know about Knights of Bakrag, we know about
Rites of Passage.
Yep. In terms of brand new stuff, there's the Beastgrave novel by C.L. Werner. We'll get to Beastgrave. Again, we will get to that. But one caught your eye in particular, Ram.
Yes. A Nid Omnibus, which is, hang on, what? I think it's the first time we've ever had an omnibus dedicated to the Nids that wasn't Genestealer related. But The Great Devourer, which is the Leviathan Omnibus, which contains the novel Valador, 4 novellas, and more, apparently. Ooh. Shame it's only available in paperback. Because I hate paperback.
Valador. Why do I know the name Valador?
Because that was the first summon you get in Final Fantasy X.
I've never played Final Fantasy X. Try again.
It's when you're the football player, isn't it?
You know what? I've just walked into so many jokes that I'm just going to move on. Is there anything else new down here?
We got the Blackstone Fortress anthology as well.
Yes, we do. Requiem Infernal's paperback. Shadowbreaker's paperback, because good God, the hardback is just a lump.
And the 20th anniversary edition of Troll Slayer. The first Gotrek and Felix novel.
Yes.
On the eve, because very, very soon after, I think, what date is its release? The pre-order for Ghoul Slayer is the 7th of September, the new Gotrek and not Felix novel. Obviously, David, you wrote Realm Slayer, The Return of Gotrek. So, obviously, you don't write Ghoul Slayer. And I feel like you may not want to answer this, but are you holding out / hoping to see Felix back in Ghoul Slayer or one of the later novels, or are you quite happy to leave Felix dead? If you're allowed to talk about it.
Well, I've not read Ghoul Slayer yet. I mean, I seriously doubt Felix will be back yet. I guess I don't know. I guess in a way it's almost like Gotrek's Doom was in the first series. It's one of those things he has to keep chasing. I think it might be nice much further down the line for him to have some kind of resolution to that. But I don't think we'll see it soon.
Yeah, because when Ghoul Slayer was announced, I thought, he's going to Shaiish to speak to Nagash to get Felix. But I feel like that would be a bit too quick.
Yeah, and also, even if Nagash had him, he's not the type to give souls away, is he?
Nope, just ask Sigmar about that one. But I did read in Myths and Revenants, One Unturned, was it? The Gotrek novel that you wrote? Untended?
Tended, yes, that's it.
Yeah, where Gotrek basically goes Super Saiyan, and gets himself wreathed in flame and goes on a killing spree with fire so hot that you have to back off 10 feet just so you don't burn, which was admittedly very badass, I'll give you. And the fact that the elven assassin, it poisons him, and it's like, this stuff is so good it should knock a Troggoth on its back, and it gave Gotrek a stomachache.
bit of a bad reaction to drink as well. I think that's what he puts it down to, doesn't he?
Yeah, more than likely. But it's interesting that because it says in there that the hag, also the assassin, who I assumed to be a Shadowblade, but maybe a daughter of Cain. I can't quite pin her down because I admit I haven't had time to read Realmslayer, where she talks about the idea that the hags of Cain have Sigmar level killing poisons ready, or at least may have poisons that can kill Sigmar, which was unsurprising because it's the daughters of Cain / the Shadowblades, but also okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you can squeeze in, drop in, seed into these stories to sort of, I guess, make a bit of interest, and also think how would these factions really work? Because I mean, yes, they're all order. Do they all get along? And we know there are sort of temples in Azerheim.
Yep.
And which you assume that Sigmar allows because he has a plan and he wants to. They're good allies to have. He wants to keep them on side, but you can't imagine everyone is exactly happy about having them there, and that the hags, they're not beholden to Sigmar.
Not at all.
They follow Morathi's commands, who they believe follows Cain's.
Yeah, I was going to. I'd about to say Cain, quote unquote, but no, Cain's gone. It's interesting because obviously with Sigmar now, there's at least a year ago, especially when Realmslayer was a thing, and you started writing for Hamilcar, that you probably had so much freedom because the setting had hardly been laid out, and whereas 40k, you've got a bit more of a tighter rulebook to play by. I guess. I don't know. I'm not an author, and I've not really spoken to an author about this, but I feel like writing for Age of Sigmar is both brilliant and terrifying because you're setting the lore up for everybody else.
Yeah, I find 40k personally much harder. I mean, I know it a little bit less well anyway because I didn't really play. I played almost exclusively fantasy when I was a kid, and I had some Imperial Guard because I love tanks, and I played Necromunda, but never really played the actual 40k game. And yeah, so it's always a bit playing catch up there because, like you say, there's so much set, and it's got a slightly different house style as well, I think. Whereas Age of Sigmar, as you say, we're creating it ourselves from the ground up. It's a bit different now, with the new edition of the core book and Forbidden Power and Soul Wars. There's more texture being laid down for us, but it's growing with us. Sort of, so it's quite easy to keep up with them.
Yeah, of course. Whereas with 40k, just look at Remleiz and I, and you know what happens when you start slipping with 40k's lore because people know. As well, Remleiz knows because he knows everything. I let a lot more. Rem, you're a walking encyclopedia of White Dwarf, and you know practically every book cover to cover, or you at least read them.
Again, I wouldn't go that far.
I'm not that far off. But yeah, fair enough, I suppose. Is there anything else in this Black Library thing that I can talk about here? No, I think we've seen it all before. So let's move on to GenCon, which happened, as of day of recording, happened yesterday. We're aware there's another reveal happening tomorrow, on the Saturday, but that's 24 hours in our future. So we're not psychic. Sadly, we can't talk about that. But we got our first proper look at the return of Aeronutica Imperialis.
The book
Little
or
Planes. The game.
The game, yes.
Oh yeah, there is a novel as well. Yes, but yes, this is the game.
I meant there used to be a Forge World rulebook or something there, or a book describing all the flying war machines.
Oh yeah, there was.
I believe it was called Aeronutica Imperialis.
It was, yeah. I still remember the very original, one of the older prototypes from this back in the 90s, which was Bombers over the Sulphur River, which was just basically getting the plane models from Epic with a little board game.
See, encyclopedia.
No, I'm just old.
Also old. But Aeronutica, the new version, is designed by the Titanicus team, or at least the models are designed by the Titanicus team, giving us new look Thunderbolts, and Dagger Jets and fighter bombers, and a hex-based combat system, which, if you're a fan of Underworlds, probably means something. If you're not a fan of Underworlds, is brand new.
Yeah, I've not played Underworlds, actually.
No, it's one of those games I keep wanting to play, but I need to buy a board, and that means I need to buy a starter set. However, I may have an opportunity for that, which I'll get to in a moment. But the new models look absolutely stunning. You get 4 Imperial planes and 5 Orc ones in the starter box, and they do say there'll be ongoing support and expansions going forward, so probably new races, different weather effects, and all sorts of fun stuff, I suspect, will be coming in the future. Will I play it? I don't know, because I'll need people to play it against, and time, and money, and I never have any of those. So we shall see whether I get to play it, but I look forward to the fact that it's in the system anyway, because, you know, more games equals more diversity equals more fun.
It's like me in the Lord of the Rings games, I think.
Oh,
I want to play it, but I just haven't the time, and I'm just happy that it's there.
Yeah, I had a Rohan army about 9 years ago, back before War of the Ring came out. I had a Rohan army of like 10 Riders of Rohan and the Metal Eomer model, way back.
Metal back then, wow.
It was the brand new Metal Eomer model, no less. But I think it just come out for War of the Ring, and I gave up immediately because I couldn't get Eomer to stick on his damn base. So my Lord of the Rings foray ended in about 5 minutes flat. But it was nice to read the books, at least.
Fair enough. I'm still waiting for Games Workshop to do a re-release of that old Orc Barroom Brawl game.
Oh, that was a White Dwarf release, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. But I want to see him do a full box release.
I played that one. in my garden. I think it must have been about 15, 16.
Yeah.
Oh God, I've got 2 old people. I'm doomed. Yeah.
They should release that as a box game, you know, with actual special miniatures, like a little, you know, chairs you can give the orcs to hold to smack people on the head with and stuff. That'd be awesome.
I could see it being a game mode in White Dwarf, honestly.
Again.
Yeah.
Because I still remember when they do loads of games you can get in White Dwarf, like the little the Witch Gladiatorial Combat game they did as well.
I don't remember.
It was very shortly after 3rd edition released. Like they gave you little cardboard cutouts of the witches to use, and each witch had its own profile and stat line and special skills.
I dropped out as a hobby.
How do you know this?
Because I remember playing it.
Oh my goodness me!
And I still remember when White Dwarf came with, you know, tiles and mission cards for Space Hulk.
That is before my time. He's clearly older than me.
Yeah, and nowadays they get we got a card in this month's White Dwarf for the Munchkin game, the As Seen in White Dwarf card. How times have changed. Speaking of change, finally, I've talked about it 3 or 4 times already. Beast Grave, the new Underworlds expansion / reboot / new rulebook / I don't really know, box game. Let's go box game. So Shadespire has bled into a living tree mountain thing in the realm of beasts, and we have a new core set with beastmen and discount / better versions of wood elves.
It's basically what happens when you cross the Fire Slayers with the Sylvaneth.
Canothi elves. I'm very, very excited by them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just new elves. Maybe it's because there were so few elves to begin with in Age of Sigmar, but every time we get a new elf, I get ridiculously excited.
Yeah, I played High and Dark Elves before Fantasy rolled into Sigmar, so Daughters was a godsend, Cities is a godsend, and Ideneth was the best thing. So I've got an inbuilt bias towards elves anyway, but yeah, the Canothi look amazing.
The Centaur looks amazing. I mean, I had back in, I think it was 4th ed, I think. 4th ed Warhammer was my first one. And there were centaurs there, and I never played Chaos, but I loved looking at all the rules, and I loved the look of the centaurs.
It was the Centaur for Beastmen, wasn't it?
They disappeared. Yeah, the centaurs sort of stuck around, and so they were kind of a form of centaur, weren't they? But these look like those old centaurs.
Yeah.
Traditional centaurs, except with that elf element. But yeah, they look amazing. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be. I really don't know anything more than anyone else, and so I don't know if they're going to become a full-on Age of Sigmar faction that we might get.
They're certainly going to get rules because every warband gets rules. My question is, what faction do they get put in? Do they get put into Wanderers, indicating Wanderers will stand alone from cities one day, or do they get put into Sylvaneth as the fauna to the Sylvaneth's flora? Or are they going to be a brand new faction for the Kenothi in general, or what? We don't know.
Is the new Sylvaneth book out yet? It's been announced, hasn't it?
Yes, it's out. It got delayed, but it's now out.
All right, so I guess they're not going to be. You'd think that would be neat if they were going to fold into there for them to be in there.
It would, but I mean, they put out a Beast of Chaos warband a year after Beast of Chaos came out with a brand new Great Bray Shaman that looks pretty awesome. So it's not impossible. It's unlikely, but it's not impossible, I guess.
Yes, I don't know. But either way, I'm very excited to see what comes of them.
Indeed. If you're a bit more old school, then you might enjoy Lizardmen Blood Bowl team. No Crocs to gore, but you get Skinks, you get Saurus, you get a Slan turn counter. If you like,
they're called the Guacamole Crater Gators. We've gone back to the 5th edition naming concept. When we had a skink named Itsy Bitsy and Teeny Weeny.
It's maximum memes.
Back before, he became known as Tenehuen, later on, he was known as Teeny Weeny.
Yes. But yes, that was GenCon. Sorry.
We've also got the Enforcers for Necromunda available in pre-order tomorrow.
Yeah, I mentioned that 10 minutes ago and got tumbleweeded.
Sorry, I must not have heard you.
That's fair enough then. But yes, they're coming. The Palanite Enforcers. I admit, like the models, still aren't going to play Necromunda.
Why not?
Just, again, time, money, opponents. Always. I'm making my own board for Warcry and Kill Team, and it could probably work for Necromunda too, but it's just because I live away from where I met my gaming group. I'm now living in another city. I haven't really built up a gaming group because I just go to G-Dubs to play. So it's not quite the same, unfortunately. So get a table, put it on your coffee table, then it's different. So I bought myself a 2x3 plank of plywood, and I'm going to make a snowscape out of it, I think. We also got to look at this month's White Dwarf in its preview. Not a lot really to say here. There's an Apocalypse Battle Report, a Warcry short, how to make models in the Realm of Light, which I like because we know nothing about the Realm of Light. Yes, please. And a story about Astra Militarum versus Tyranids. And that's about it. A bit of a quiet White Dwarf, I think, that one, compared to what was in this month's White Dwarf, where we got Index Blood Ravens, a Death Worlds painting guide, and the lore behind how the Indomitus Crusade came to be. It's about 6 pages long, and I devoured it. It was the best thing.
That was good stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of stuff that I read White Dwarf for.
Absolutely, because it's like, yeah, the Indomitus Crusade, that was a thing, but, was it the Great Crusade 2.0? Not exactly. So how did it actually work? Well, first, we're going to purge all of terror. Yay! Second, we're going to tell everyone who's losing to come home and everyone who's winning to naff off and carry on. Third, we're just going to wing it and hope. Yeah, fantastic reading. If you get a chance, go read it. Otherwise, keep an eye on my channel. And I won't say any more than that because that would be spoilers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I think that's broadly the news. So, Rem, shall we begin the spoilers section? Because I know you're itching to talk about something.
Oh, yes.
Oh, he's itching. You hear the hand clap. You know he's ready. Right. Spoilers for everybody. This book that we're going to be talking about now is...
Lost and the Damned. Siege of Terror, Book 2.
Oh, yes. This isn't even on pre-order yet. Consider yourself duly warned. We're going in deep on spoilers. You have been warned.
I earned this, considering the book sold out in 30 minutes. I earned this. Right. So, obviously, you've seen one scene that's been posted around via Twitter of, Fulgrim pulling the lewd face. I think everyone's seen that one particular scene by now, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the story seems to be focusing around a conscript named Katsuhiro from Nihon. And it's interesting to see how, the horrors of war against, transhumans and, traitor Imperial Army and stuff, coming from someone who is not a soldier, even though he's expected to fight as one. Which is quite an interesting way of doing it. We did get the Beastman scene as well. Basically, all the Beastmen were basically drugged up on Slort, if everyone remembers that drug from Necromunda. Basically a big combat drug. And, basically saying, like, you Beastmen are all oppressed and they hate you, so you should go out and kill them. There was that weird scene where Zardulea comes floating down out of the sky on an island of bones, which was... a proper moment.
Yeah.
I know I'm just talking random scenes off the top of my head, because I don't really want to spoil the story from front to back. I just want to point out key points from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So obviously the cover had Sanguinius on it. How much does he actually feature?
Quite prominently. He features more than Dawn or Jagatai. But speaking of Jagatai, he gets sick. He actually gets stabbed with a plague knife, and he falls sick.
I mean, that's not that shocking, because we know...
But Primox are supposedly immune to disease.
Yes, conventionally, but if we bear in mind, Horus in False Gods gets stabbed with a anatheme, which is a chaos-corrupted blade. And so a plague knife is a Nurgle corrupted plague. It's not just a knife dipped in some poison stuff. And even if it is, it's a knife dipped in Nurgle poison stuff. So because the warp's in play, you can kind of excuse it.
And we know the warp's in play because as soon as they got back inside the palace, the plague knife disintegrated and Jagatai was all better. It's like, how convenient.
Wait, so we're now running under the logic that the Imperial Palace has a giant anti-warp shield in it.
It's called the Emperor.
Point taken.
It's his power. It's basically the reason why Angron could not assault the Imperial Palace. He could assault outside it, but not assault the walls directly because, big anti-warp barrier. Exactly. So what he did was essentially just go around and start beating the crap out of everything in sight. Though that was after the scenes with Gendor Scrivok. AKA
before you get too mad, because I know you're going to go on a massive rant based on what I've seen on Twitter. Just coming back to this warp shield dusty thingamabob.
Yes.
Is this an Emperor on the Golden Throne trick, or is this an Emperor trick? Because if it's an Emperor trick, then why didn't the entirety of Horus's fleet get dusted as soon as he teleported up there?
Because the Emperor is still stuck on the Golden Throne.
So it's an Emperor on Golden Throne trick.
As far as we're aware.
Good. I just wanted to check that. And the second question, I suppose, is it still a thing? Obviously, we don't know that because Emperor is now corpse.
Well, considering that, 88 cohorts of Khornate demons were able to assault the Lion's Gate.
Which is not as close as Kabanda got, because he got to Eternity Gate.
No, but it's a lot closer than what Angron currently got to.
Right, that's going to be interesting to see how Kabanda gets to Eternity Gate then.
Basically, Dawn's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, because he knows if he doesn't attack the traitors, they're going to complete a ritual to summon a crap ton of demons, and if he does kill them, it's going to spill so much blood that's going to summon the demons.
So basically, save your soldiers from dying to create the ritual and just let the ritual happen. Easy.
but do you really want to have the demons and their summoners to fight, or just the demons to fight?
Point taken. Especially when said summoner is probably Magnus.
Also, the Death Guard did get their promise to be the first legion to assault the Imperial Palace, much to Angron's dismay. He was very upset about that.
Angron/Khan were the first to the gates was wrong?
No. The Death Guard were the first to assault, and then basically during the middle of one of the assaults, Angron just basically goes, "Screw it."
And goes.
Pretty much because, again, going back to Gendor Scrivark, a.k.a. the poor man's Sevatar, that's putting it very politely, he basically teleported Angron from the Conqueror to the Nightfall into the maze that where Vulcan was, stuck in Vulcan lives. And so Angron's just rampaging through this maze until he gets to an open bulkhead, sees Terra's like, all right, fuck it, just jumps out. Oh, and he can speak in space.
He's a demon.
Exactly. I just found that funny, though. It reminds me of that old joke, saying I'm Batman and I can breathe in space.
Well, in this case, he escaped from pseudo-Batman and can breathe in space.
Yeah. Though we did get a fight scene between Angron and Khan, not Jagatai Khan, as in Khan the Betrayer, or would soon to be Betrayer. Because, Angron, you need to stop killing all of our serfs, and you need to stop rampaging on the way to the engineering. Otherwise, you might cause the ship to blow up. I don't care. Skulls for the Skull Throne. Which is why he made a deal with Scrivark to begin with. Yeah, I hate Scrivark.
Angron's still alive, really, isn't it? You'd think he'd have got himself into a scrape he can't bam his way out of by now.
Yeah. But the second legion to assault Terra after the Death Guard, but before the Worldies, was actually the Night Lords. And Lucoriphus was indeed the first person to make it to the top of the walls of the Imperial Palace.
Who?
Lucoriphus from the Night Lords trilogy. Night Lord Raptor.
Right. I mean, he's got a jump back. He's cheating.
True, but still holds up to his claim, though.
Yeah.
There is a quite funny interaction between Skyvark and Raldoron, where Skyvark's basically like, "Face me, Blood Angel! I am Gendor Skyvark, the Painted Count, Lord Commander of the 8th Legion!" And Raldoron's just like, "Never heard of you." And then proceeds to bitch slap him.
I mean, why would Raldoron have heard of him? Because, Raldoron for the entire heresy was on Cygnus, then on Ultramar, where Scrivark doesn't really show up, because he didn't go to, what's the place? Sotha. Sotha, that's the one I was looking for. Because I think Scrivark might have been on Sotha, but the Blood Angels weren't. So Raldoron would have no reason to know that Scrivark existed. To him, the Lord Commander of the Legion would be probably Jago Sevatarian.
Who, to everyone's knowledge, is dead.
Probably.
Yeah, because considering that pretty much every major officer in all the legions pretty much knows at least of each other, for the major ones, because that's one. Everyone knows of Khan, everyone knows of Sevatar, everyone knows of Sigismund, everyone knows of Raldoron, everyone knows of Jubal, exactly, yeah. But I'm still very confused at this point in regards to the chronology of the Night Lords, considering that Sevatar was first captain, he's now presumed dead. Then Scrivark claims to be the Lord Commander of the Legion.
The Legion's fractured.
Yeah, or at least fracturing. And then when Kurtz does return, after the heresy, before his assassination, he's still under the assumption that Sevatar's first captain. So I'm wondering, when the hell
does Sevatar die?
We don't know. He's just presumed dead because he vanished.
Exactly, but the assumption would be that Kurz killed him because, Red Sinner's gauntlets and all that jazz.
True, but last time we saw him, I think he was captured by the Dark Angels.
Yep, he's dead.
Yeah, but he did manage to escape, and everyone now believes he either.
And he didn't get away, did he? He escaped, killed someone, and then went back, didn't he?
Pretty much, yes. Yes, you're correct. Yeah, and he had the the mental conversations with that little astropath girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, work out, killed the mean astropath, and then...
got thrown back in jail.
Yeah.
And, but I'm still trying to figure out when Joe Sahal became first captain in all this, because he became first captain before Conrad Kurtz's death.
Didn't Scribok get, like, thrown out?
Well, Scribok, in this novel, does die, and there was much rejoicing.
From you.
Well, from pretty much most Novels fans. Well, he's lying on the floor dying, because he basically, effectively got pushed off the wall. Well, he jumped off the wall rather than, meet his end with dignity. And as he's lying there dying with his broken back and neck, he gets French kissed by a horse. I'm only slightly exaggerating. It was like a horse-faced demon. He gets French kissed by it, and the demon goes inside him, and then they disappear into the warp, and he starts screaming in pain for about 666 years.
Yeah, because Scribok is around later, isn't he? But he's not part of the Legion.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, he did ascend to demonhood, which I believe is what this was.
That sounds right. Although I don't remember his lore off the top of my head. So that would explain why he no longer is first captain after the Siege of Terror, because
he was never first captain to begin with. He was just called himself the self-appointed Lord Commander.
In which case, maybe Zoe was first captain the entire time.
But according to Guy Haley's Conrad Kurz Primarch novel, Kurz is still referring to Sevatar as the first captain, just before his death. So it was like, hang on, so when did you promote Joe Sahal then?
Maybe he didn't, and somebody else did. Because they thought maybe Kurz lost control of the Legion and just retreated into his solitude to die.
But in Lord of the Night, there's a scene where all the captains of the Legion are assembled, and Kurz basically saying, Joe Sahal, as my first captain, you are my successor. And that's why he got given the Corona Nox.
Right, yeah, okay, I'm starting to see the confusion now.
I mean, I understand, there may be some unwillingness to use the character of Joe Sahal, considering that it was Simon Spurrier's character. Because I know that's why ADB created Sevatar, so he didn't have to use him, because I know he had some
issues.
I didn't want to say issues, but he had some concerns about using the character, about out of respect and all that, which I can understand.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want some clarification.
That's totally fair. So,
David, what do you reckon?
I don't know. I didn't know that stuff about the other guy being someone else's character and Sevatar being created for that reason.
See, I told you. I keep saying this. He's a bloody encyclopedia.
That's it. From what else? Oh yeah, the White Scars effectively, after Jagatai recovers from being stabbed, they effectively go off to protect the civilian population. So they've actually abandoned. Well, 2/3 of the Legion have left the Imperial Palace to go and protect civilian populations, because Horus is basically attacking them as well, trying to bait them out. And Jagtai's like, well, we can't leave them defenseless. And Don's like, you have to stay here. Khan's like, yeah, but if we don't, then what good are we? Because we're meant to protect people. So off we go, riding off into the sunset.
And failing because the Emperor's children ransacked the administratum and the civilian population of Terra. So well done there.
In fairness, that'll probably end up being the focus of another book, where the White Scars and the Emperor's children clash, which would be kind of awesome. Let's be honest.
Yeah, the two best swordsman legions, because maybe because the Emperor's children were swordsmen and the White Scars had a lot of curved scimitars. So I guess you could do something good with that.
Oh, it was.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not that good on my cultural names. Sorry.
All right. But yeah. And when the Death Guard assault the walls of the Imperial Palace, they've got the massive siege towers, as you do. I love the old plague. It's the old epic plague towers.
Just like the old epic medals with the big face on the front.
Pretty much, yeah. I do like how the Horus Heresy books have been making some, hints and references to some of the really older 40k stuff. Like at the end of Titan Death, there was that reference to the Bane Lord Titan from Epic.
Well, all the writers are old 40k players. So yeah, that's what you get.
So chronology-wise, where does the book end? Not
Basically,
what happens, just where are we?
they've just repelled the first, basically, Traitor Legion assault wave. So basically, there's going to be another wave incoming. It's before the demons actually make planetfall, or make manifest, rather.
Yeah, because the next novel's called The First Wall, isn't it? That's Gav's.
Yeah, that's basically the Imperial Fists against the Iron Warriors, which should be a pretty good one.
And hopefully has the floating fortress.
Hopefully. Hopefully indeed. Oh, and the very touching scene where Pertwee was basically saying, you know, why am I never appreciated? I just want someone to appreciate me. And Horus is like, but I do appreciate you. Really? See, that's all Pertwee needed. He would have remained loyal if someone just gave him a hug and said, you did a good job, boy. That's what he needed. It's like acknowledgement, and he would have stayed loyal.
Fair enough. So, anything else on Lost of the Dance, or can we close the spoiler section?
We can close the spoiler section, but those are the main interesting points.
Fair enough. So, welcome back, people who use the timestamp in the description. Welcome back. Spoilers are over, and I will make sure Rem doesn't say anymore because I know what he's like.
Yeah.
So now that you've finished reading that, is there anything else you've had a chance to get onto?
Yes, I also managed to read Crimson Dawn. You know, the little novella about the origins of the Crimson Slaughter.
You mean the Crimson Slaughter Codex?
No. Crimson Slaughter Warband, basically before they, as they fell from the Crimson Sabers to turn into the Crimson Slaughter.
Not familiar.
Right.
Little novella about it, and it's quite interesting to see how effectively everyone's falling under some kind of mental psychosis in regards to this, because they witnessed, you know, this village performing this festival ritual thing, and then you got the captain of the scout company saying, you know, it could just be, you know, a repurposed ritual, because some of the more primitive worlds do keep their rituals just, you know, in reverence for the emperor instead of their old gods, and they think they see a demon and end up slaughtering the entire village. And then it turns out that the village was actually performing their Saints' Day festival. And they've just ended up massacring a whole bunch of women and children. And they're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, and assuming that, I don't know where this book ends, but I know that in the Crimson Slaughter Codex, they start hearing the voices of everyone they kill. And the only way to stop it is to kill some more.
Yeah, because as they basically leave the planet and they're back on the ship, they keep hearing voices of like this little girl asking, why are you doing this? And it drives a whole bunch of them to the brink of insanity, pretty much.
Yep, and that's basically how the Crimson Slaughter came to be. In general, was they kept fighting, and eventually, I forget the exact details. I did a video on it years ago. Eventually, it just got too much, and they flipped.
And it turns out there actually was a demon on the planet as well. Ended up being a Lord of Change.
Well, that would explain a lot.
Yep. It's quite funny seeing a Lord of Change change its staff into like a gigantic mace. That was quite interesting. And as it's fighting the librarian, it gets one of its wings blown off by a heavy bolter. It's like, yeah, that's metal.
Yeah, it is.
But it was surprisingly actually a pretty decent little novella, because I know there's been, you know, some people feel a bit in regards to the Crimson Slaughter because of how, you know, they effectively got given, you know, a Roman Reigns push in regards to the, you know, Traitor Legion warband.
Oh, they got pushed hard.
Yeah, so I know that put a lot of people off, but this little novella is actually a really good read. I do recommend it.
Yeah, I think the problem was when the Crimson Slaughter were introduced was the start of 6th edition with Dart of Vengeance. And because they didn't want the Dark Angels presumably going up against someone of importance, because, you know, you're not allowed to do that, have a named character and a very important group of individuals go up against another group of important individuals in a box game. They had to invent someone suitably badass enough to have ticked off the Dark Angels whilst also not being a fallen. So they kind of shoved the Crimson Slaughter into prominence very, very quickly in order to make it stick. And then they gave them a codex.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting that, to be honest.
No, but it happened. I mean, they clearly learned their lesson.
regardless of whether people like the Crimson Slaughter or not, you have to admit they got a cool name.
I mean, I read the story in the Codex, and I found it very fascinating. And obviously, at the time, I wasn't thinking, "Oh God, these guys are being pushed so hard, and I've never heard of them. And they're being made super OP." I didn't think that back 3-4 years ago when I started reading about them.
And some people just look at them and keep hearing in their mind, "Burn him, burn him."
So I'm showing my ignorance, I think, of so much of the wider.
That's a wrestling joke. Don't worry about it.
I don't know.
It's a wrestling joke. But I wouldn't worry. So obviously, I know you're probably writing something because authors never stop writing. But have you had a chance to read anything in the last recent times?
At the moment, I'm reading Plague War, Guy Haley.
Oh, Rem's not going to appreciate that.
I'm trying to catch up with my post Noctis Eternia 40k reading, which, because I've been doing pretty much just Age of Sigmar for so long, I've not kept up with. So I've read Dark Imperium, and I really loved it. Sorry if that upsets anyone. I thought it was amazing. And then I read Cadia Stands just for the break, which I also really enjoyed. And I was wondering what to read next. I was thinking about reading Gloomspite Gits, but I just had to read. I had to go back to Plague War.
There's always Shroud of Night.
Shroud of Night. No, yeah. I'm trying to think if I've read that one. That's also Andy Clark, right?
Yeah, Andy Clark, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't think I've read that one. I've read the Rob Sanders.
Sons of the Hydra, isn't it?
Yeah.
That one got everybody talking because of the whole Deceiver, Omegon, Third Primarch nonsense. That did the rounds.
Yeah. But referring to Plague War, I do love that bit right at the end. If you haven't read that far yet, I won't spoil it. But I'd say the last chapter was brilliant. I will say that.
I love how much Guy Haley clearly knows about the lore. The way he, he has Guilliman rebuilding sort of Ultramar as he thinks it ought to be again. Yeah, but I know from what I do that in order to do that, you've got to really know
what it was.
Yeah, really know what you're talking about, and it's just so impressive to me.
I'll also give Guy Haley immense credit. He really knows how to write a closing chapter. He's really good at doing closing chapters.
I've read both Baneblade and Shadow Sword, the Imperial Guard tank novels, and the ending to Shadow Sword, though I don't think I ever really talked about it on the show, is a fantastic ending. Like the final fight scene, the final conclusion is brilliant, and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely agree with that.
I've not read that one yet. I've read Baneblade, but I've not read Shadow Sword yet.
Yeah, it came out. I read it about this time last year, I think. I was down visiting friends, and they were all hungover, so I just read it in the morning, which was an interesting experience. But yeah, definitely can recommend that series because, well, I can.
You have that power.
Yes, I do. I've got a following now, and I'm not going to say anyone listens to me, but somebody might.
If one person listens to you, then that's a victory.
Or a loss for them, depending on how you look at it.
Tomato.
Yeah. So I guess, obviously, the next novel you've got coming out, I think is the next one, is the Idnet Deepkin novel, whose name has gone out of my head.
Court of the Blind King.
That's the one. Yeah.
That's next, if we discount Realmslayer. You did say novel. So, yes, that is the next novel coming out.
Obviously, we haven't even seen the previews for it. It's not on coming soon, so I understand you're probably not at liberty to talk about it yet. But
there was a cover reveal, wasn't there?
There was. Wow.
I'm not sure where that was done. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's their character, the Achillean prince, lounging on his throne, looking a bit bored. don't think there's anything I can't say without giving too much away.
That's totally fair.
It is obviously the first Idleth novel, so.
But it's not the first Idleth you've written.
No, I've done 2 short stories. What's the first one called? The Sea Taketh.
Sea Taketh, and something to do with lessons learned, and it's the learning. That's it. Now I've read those 2 as part of Myths and Revenants, and I just want to say I have an Idleth Deepkin army, and it's Morfan. And your description of the Akelian leader of Morfan made me really chuckle, because yours is an Akelian queen with jet black hair that rides around on a quite pale white deep mare, as I recall.
Yes.
And not joking, a week prior to reading that book, I built and converted an Akelian queen with jet black hair. Like, I'd converted it specifically using witch elf parts because I wanted a different Akelian. So I made a queen and it was like, I've made an Akelian queen of Morfan that looks exactly like the one described in the book. That's just hilarious.
Maybe we just both read the Codex and got that same sort of flash of Codex. Battle Tome and got the same inspiration flash.
Maybe. Admittedly, mine's on a very dark deep mare, yours on a very pale one, so I didn't quite get it perfect psychic. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And with the learning, you introduce the story from the perspective of the Imbalers or Imbalers, I never know how you pronounce that. The Beast Tamers.
I'd say Imbaler person.
That's fair. But yeah, the Beast Tamers, which is something that we've never seen. They're not mentioned anywhere. Well, they're mentioned in the Battle Tome by name, and that's it. They don't really tell you how it works or anything like that.
Yeah, they don't have rules for the battlefield, but they're in there. They're in the Battle Tome.
Yeah, and it is just a really interesting little insight to see how this society works. That, oh yeah, they've got these realm gates, the waterways. I forgot. I should have. Whirlways. Thank you. Sorry, I'm really bad at names today. They can get around with the whirlways, but they also have to go swimming out in the open ocean, and they just take expeditions of Namati and just lose them and don't care. And the story begins with the birth of this Idleth child as he's growing up, where he's born to Namati parents, and he's super lucky that he's the 1 in 100 who's not a Namati. So he gets taken away and is trained with the Akelians and the Isharan and becomes an Imbaler. And I love the story how it comes full circle, that he witnesses his tutor take on something he can't catch and then catches it himself, only to then do exactly the same thing, not several decades or centuries later, which I just found that to be brilliant.
Because he's not learning. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I like them both. I think I probably prefer the first one. You know, with having them both a couple of years behind me now in hindsight, I did enjoy. That was from the Caradron's perspective.
Yeah, the Caradron guy who goes out to sea, in the whole poem about the monsters of the sea, how the fish forget of the monsters of the sea, and the sea taketh from the sea and all that stuff. And they think it's about them. Oh no. Oh no. It's the Idleth, and you don't F with the Idleth.
I thought it was a nice way to show something we've not seen before from someone else's view, so we can all see it together. We can all feel the fear as these scary, scary elves rise out of the sea to take your soul.
Yeah, it's unpleasant. It's very unpleasant, but it's also fantastic to read because it can't happen to me. So, sympathies to that village, but I'm just interested because I have a massive thing for elves. Elves are the best. So yes, more. Let's just say, if it weren't for the fact that I have so much to do, I don't know if it'll be the next thing I read, but I'm getting Court of the Blind King as soon as I can because I just want all of it.
All the elves.
Yeah. And of course, you also have probably your not most recent release, but one of the most recent, certainly that I've read, was Hamilcar, Hamilcar Bear Eater, Champion of the Gods, which was, that was a thing.
Is it the most recent? It probably is. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago even, was it? It was like May or April.
Yeah, and its paperback's not even out yet. So
yeah, paperback. Oh, I just had the coming soon page open just moments ago. I think that's August. I think I said August. August for paperback.
August 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very, very soon. And obviously Hamilcar's not a new character. Well, he's your character, but he's not a new character. He's been around for a while now. And I must admit, as someone who is a Thousand Suns person in 40k, reading about a Stormcast who's also a Space Wolf, I should hate it, but I also love it.
You're the Space Wolf, man.
Yeah.
Templars. Templars, they're their own thing. They definitely have a Space Wolf vibe, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not saying the whole chamber are Space Wolves, but Hamilcar himself is this loud, boisterous, bearded, obnoxious, exceptionally annoying, ignorant of command jackass who just happens to be ridiculously good in a fight. He's a Space Wolf in the wrong universe, but I don't care because
and he's from an icy land. He has that too, doesn't he? He's from the ice. What is it? The eternal winterlands of Azir.
Yeah,
It was nice as well to have it. Generally, our Stormcast Eternals come from all over the place. I thought, you know what? Let's have one actually from Azir. There must be tons of them.
Yeah, almost
like that as well. He's got that bit of baggage, I suppose, that he never fought chaos as a mortal. That's something of a...
Yeah, but he's still capable of drop kicking a god halfway across a room. What possessed you to drop kick? No, I've talked about it on the podcast before, so I feel like the audience are aware. But what possessed you to make a Stormcast drop kick his own god halfway across a room? Where did that come from? I have to ask.
Why did I decide to do it? I don't know. So much of that book was because it was funny. I don't think
it worked. It was funny.
It wasn't greatly planned, that novel. Normally I do plan, but this one wasn't. Apart from, I knew what happened to him in the Skaven lair. I knew what was going to get done to him, and I knew there was going to be the big showdown at the end there. But all the little wending the way from A to B to C, I kind of did as I went along. So, yeah, I don't know why I decided he was going to punch his god in the face.
But it worked, because it makes him look like a badass. It works. And obviously, the Skaven in question, Ikrit, admittedly, may have just been me that thought that was a kick claw, but obviously, we don't know if it's a kick claw. We'll find out one day, I guess. But we'll see, I suppose. Anyway, I'll stop with the accidental interrogation. Remleiz, I'm sure you have some questions buried away.
Yes, I got a few questions from the listeners in regards to ask you, David, if you don't mind answering them.
And we will intersperse this with some for us as well. Don't worry, if you did leave questions generally or for us, we'll work a few in as well, because we're conscious of time.
I warn you, David, there are quite a lot of sound-related ones. The first question is...
Not sure what that means, but I'll find out when we get there.
So the first question, how did you get involved with Black Library, and subsequently, how would a newer writer get involved, if possible, with Black Library?
I came in through the submission window in, I think it was 2011, maybe 2012. And I think the requirements there was to submit maybe 2,000 words or 1,000 words of a short story. And if they liked it, then they'd get in touch and request the full story, etc. So yeah, I did that, and I wrote a story about two Skaven stuck in a cellar in Araby, and they can't get out. And which doesn't sound terribly exciting when you pitch it like that, but they clearly liked the sample, so I think they liked the sample, but thought the story itself, needed some work, and then it basically got turned into Titilian's Talisman, which is my story in the Gothic and Felix anthology. And so that was my first story for Black Library.
Fair enough.
So, and they do. So the second part of that question: how would anyone get involved in? As far as I know, that's the best way. If you haven't written anything else, I know the likes of Pete McLean and Danny Ware. I think they might have been approached by Black Library. I think others have come in that way as well. More recently, I think people from further back. They were the insiders, or they came in through the submission window, I think.
Fair enough. Okay, and another question for David. What will be the name and rough release date of the next Stronos novel?
So it's not confirmed. I'm working on the basis that it's going to be called The Sapphire King. And it doesn't have a release date. It's not on my immediate set of jobs to do. I've got, which takes. See, I've got work to do up until about next spring. I mean, I'm hoping to do it. I'm going to have to read the other Iron Hands novels again because it's been a while. It's been a while now. So people who have been waiting probably have been waiting a while. Hopefully. It might be end of next year or early 2021. It's a little while yet, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if Shadow Sword proved anything, people are willing to wait for good sequels. So it's not a problem if it takes a while.
Okay, question for everyone. Could the Imperium of Man defeat the Men of Iron at their height?
Yes. I'm going
to say no, considering that Dark Age of Technology humanity only just barely managed to do it with a coalition of galactic powers. I doubt the Imperium would be as successful, considering that, they don't have all the fancy weaponry that the DA Tech humanity did.
I guess you do say at the height of their powers, so, probably, I'd go with that.
Actually, yeah, okay, retract, I lost. Yeah, I think the Imperium would lose that one. When you say it that way, I was thinking, the Imperium just got infinite numbers, but back then probably Dark Age humanity had near infinite numbers too, because, they all were there, and then the Great Crusade took them back, so.
Okay, this is
sorted.
This is not quite a question for David Guymer, but considering it's about authors, might as well propose it. Okay. What do you think the authors will do when they get to the end of the Horus Heresy and start doing post-Heresy, pre-40k, or go on to about fan-favorite chapters like Black Templars, Crimson Fists, and Blood Ravens?
I don't know. I mean, I guess the Horus Heresy has been a big part of everyone's life for a long time, hasn't it?
Since 2006, I think it was.
So, I don't know. I mean, as someone who I just sort of snuck in at the end with the Dreadwing novella, but
and the first Spanish Primarch novel.
Yeah, I guess that counts, doesn't it?
Oh, it counts.
I think there is still going to be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's the answer.
Yeah, because there was speculation of, are they going to do a series on the Great Scouring or what else? But we don't know, obviously, at this stage. That was just some speculation that went round at one point.
I would I know I've said this before on the show, but personally, I would love a mini-series based on the Reign of Blood.
Yep, Age of Apostasy would be great. The Nova Terra Interregnum would be great.
Plague of Unbelief
I thought would be great, but I said it so often a long time ago, I can't actually remember what it was now. I think, it was the Abyssal Crusade. I thought.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's some events that precede it and some events that follow it. And I think the Sons of Medusa were founded then, and the Adeptus Sororitas, I think, was founded at the end of it. It's like this period, a couple of 100 years, in which a lot of really important things seem to happen, and I thought that would be a really great period of time to set some books in.
And if they want to do another Civil War series, well, the Badab War is right there. So they could do Badab as well as that. There's plenty of options for them if they want to do another mega series.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to be part of the Siege of Terror series, but I would like to see a novel detailing the fall of Caliban.
Nothing happened on Caliban, though. It would be a complete waste of time.
It's just a book that's just 300 pages of blank paper.
And then on page 299, nothing happened on Caliban. The end.
I remember Chris Rake once talking about wanting to do a War in Heaven series.
Ooh, which one? The Eldar one or the Necron one?
I think Eldar and Necron, I can't remember.
Because there's the one where the Eldar fight their gods, and there's the one where the Eldar fight the Necrons.
And there's the one where the Eldar gods fight, Slanesh.
I suspect it will be Eldar and Necron. I don't know if this is... I guess my interpretation is that the Eldar's sort of mythical version, that's just like their ancient telling of the actual events of the battle with the Necron and the Catan and the Old Ones and the Krork.
Possibly.
You'd imagine over such spans of time, even Eldar sort of turn to myth.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we'll see, I suppose, if that ever happens. Though, if we're going to do one-off novels, can we have a novel about, like, some Tau stuff, please? Like, early Tau, maybe, like, Theo Torn myth, maybe tell that story in full. Or could we have a bit more about the Fourth of Fifth Sphere expansion, please? Or some more Farsight, because, I have a thing for Farsight. Phil Kelly, get on that, please. Yeah.
Or a Ghazghkull Thraka origin story.
Basically, everything is Eldrad's fault.
Yeah, I know, but a detailed novel would be nice. Considering we haven't got any Orc novels from their point of view, all we have is one novella and a couple of audio dramas.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
A novel from the Orcs' point of view would be great. An entire novel.
I mean, we've only just got a novel from the Necron perspective with this upcoming novella, so maybe now's the time.
We have Devourer, which is told, which is literally, all from Necron perspective, apart from like 1 or 2 chapters with Blood Angels in it.
When was that written?
That was back in the it was back when Siege of Cryptus was a thing.
Oh, end of 7th edition then.
I think it was before then, because it was back when novellas had the weird round spines rather than the flat spines.
How weird.
I think it was like 2013.
Cryptus itself has led into the devastation of Baal, so it'll have been like the last throes of 7th, so probably more like 2015.
Just look up the release date of it was Shield of Baal was the series.
Yes, it was. Yeah, when was that? 'Cause it was a November or a December that went.
January 2015.
January 2015. Right, there we go.
Yeah, because half the story was focused on Anrakia the Traveller, and the other half was focused on a cryptek from the Tomb World that the Nids were invading.
Right. Yeah, that novel got past me because back then I wasn't reading much.
It's only a novella, don't worry. It's not a long one. And you could also argue Damnos because half the book's from the Ultramarines perspective, and the other half's from the Necron perspective.
But wasn't at least maybe not the sequels Damnos, but I feel like Damnos was written almost before the Necrons got rebooted.
I don't think it's that old.
Actually, no. The Necron reboot was in 5th edition. What am I talking about? But it was part of Space Marine Battles, and
it was 2011. That book was.
Okay, I'm talking absolute tripe. Then ignore me. Carry on.
Okay, another question for David Guymer, and I apologize because it's going to be the meme one. Why did Ferrus Manus eat sand, given how coarse, rough it is, and the fact it gets everywhere?
Is this from? I assume from my short story.
Yeah, from Scions of the Emperor, yeah.
Oh, Silence. Oh, yeah, so. I just thought, what, is there a lot of on Medusa? Just to show how tough and adaptable young Primarch is, he can eat sand or rock and get enough sustenance from that to keep going.
Fair enough. This leads on to the next part of the question. What's his stance on gravel?
Yeah, in fact, it's probably better. There's probably more in there. A bit of variety in gravel. It's
texture. Okay.
I've seen the question list, and the other thing that comes up with Ferrus Manus is the whole catching a las cannon incident, which Oh, that hurt my brain so much as a physicist when you catch a light beam. Which,
That's from the novel, isn't it?
Yeah, that's from the Primarch novel. Yeah, when that the leader of that other civilization, that big mech robot cyborg body thing, just pulls out the big cannon hidden in his body. Is like bang.
Yeah, it's just badassery, isn't it? You know, as a fellow scientist, I was a microbiologist. I obviously know nothing about physics, but I do try and keep as much of my science valid as possible. I saw something that Guy Haley wrote recently, that he always tries to keep his science convincing, so it makes the ridiculous stuff convincing as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about it, it was like, okay, it was a plasma beam, it wasn't actual light. Because light doesn't do that. But plasma does. If you play around with living metal nonsense, you could probably get away with it. But yeah, when Remleiz' favorite joke was catching and crushing light beams, and it hurt. But
I mean, in fairness, it's still more believable, you know, than an incident with Rabute Gilliman in No Fear, where, you know, he's breathing in space without a helmet.
Primarchs.
I know, but still.
As I say, it's badassery. Anything goes with badassery.
Yeah, the rule of cool trumps all.
Considering it's the cover of the book where he's just got no helmet in space and just punching someone's head off, that's pretty badass. You know, it's about as badass as 30k Gilliman would get, but still. I'm probably being harsh here.
A little, but, you know, details.
I do maintain that 40k Gilliman is a better character than 30k Gilliman.
The quote in this one's White Dwarf from Gilliman, where he's like, he's basically being crimson slaughtered, well, quote unquote crimson slaughtered, where he can hear like the voices of those he can't save, every world he's had to abandon, every call for aid that's gone unanswered, but he has to press on. He's
Superman.
Some of those pictures, he does look a bit like Superman with I guess the blue and the big square.
The blue. He can hear people's voices. You know, when
I think that might be
he can breathe in space.
It was probably a metaphor, yes, but, you know, lean into the
What he needs now is the ability to fly, and he is Superman.
And laser eyes.
We can give him bionics for that.
Frost breath.
I'm sure he can fit something in his throat for that.
Anyway,
he can use biomancy for that. You know, he's a Primarch. They're psychers. He can use biomancy.
All right. Yep. Next.
Okay, let's pick a question for everyone. Could the Cicatrix Maledictum be a sign of the birth of the Emperor as a new Chaos God?
No.
No, I don't think so either.
In a word, no, because like the Maledictum was created, some say, by the Chaos Gods, both because Cadia broke and also as a response to the creation of Gilliman, some say. So I very much doubt that if it was the birth of the Emperor, he'd throw a giant whack-off warp storm in his own empire's way. Somehow.
What would he be the Chaos God of?
Order.
That's the contradiction.
It's like you have Nikoho, the god of atheism, so in Sigmar, so...
True. He'd be the Chaos God of fabulous gold.
Chaos God of shiny.
The god of the Blood Ravens.
That's not even that wrong.
Oh yeah, because they do venerate him as a god, don't they?
Well, I don't know about God, but they venerate him above all others since they have no Primarch. I don't know if it quite goes to deification, though.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Nah, me neither.
Okay, what does Gene Seed actually look like? Well, with the Progenoids, you can just look at the Primaris Apothecary model because he's got one in his hand. But that's just for the Progenoid.
I guess I sort of imagine it as a bit like the Biospore miniature, you know, the big the oozy ball with flesh on it.
I feel like there isn't actually just like, obviously the Progenoid contains all the gene seed data because that's what the Progenoid does. But obviously, when you're given gene seed, all the implants that go into making a space marine, they're given at different ages and different ways at different times. So there probably isn't just one size fits all gene seed other than the progenoids. So they're probably the best you're going to get.
Okay, another question for David. Is it more common for Black Library to approach the authors to say, we want you to write this story, or do the authors approach Black Library and say, I have this idea?
I suspect the likes of Dan, Aaron, Co, maybe like Chris as well, go up and say, this is my idea. I tend to be asked to do things. I think the only time I've ever basically sort of been asked, what do you really want to do, was the Iron Hands. I was basically, I think it was Laurie Goulding was my editor then. He said, if you could do anything, what would it be? And we ended up doing the Iron Hands, and off the back of that, Ferrus Manus. But everything else, I was asked to do. Even Hamilcar, I think. So yeah, he was a character in one of the audios, and Nick Kime asked me to bring him back for an Advent short story, and then another short story, and then
2 novels later.
Asked me to do a novel, yeah.
Yeah, one of the questions I always like to ask authors, sort of are the inverse to that. Is there, instead of a project that you've always wanted, is there a project that you'd love to read but would never want to write? So it's like, I want to know more about this, but I don't want to be the one that writes it.
To read but not to write. Oh, that's a tricky one. Yeah, that's... I sort of had that thought when I was asked to do Dreadwing, because I didn't think I knew enough to do it proper justice, but I was talked into it. Nick Kime again. So yeah, I guess it happens. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, though, except to maybe think of that example, which I then wrote anyway.
Fair enough.
Okay, another question for David. What advice would you give to anyone who wants to go down the route of being an author like yourself?
Nice. Takes a long time to make money, so don't expect, at least writing for the likes of Black Library and tie-in like us. Obviously, if you're going to write a Harry Potter or a Lee Child, then disregard everything I say. So I wrote while working full-time for I think 5 years. So I've only been full-time writer for about 2 years. Always listen to feedback. That's really important. I've never known anyone who doesn't personally, but obviously I deal a lot with editors, and editors will always be able to tell you stories about people who refuse to listen to suggestions, and yeah, they're not gonna last too long. And yeah, just keep practicing, keep getting feedback. I think the feedback's really important, especially when you're starting, to iron out all those little tweaks. I did a writing course before I submitted my first stories, and that really helped me iron out those little niggles and shave off the rough edges and polish that diamond. And yeah,
sounds like being a YouTuber. Don't make money, get lots of feedback, and pray.
Yeah, it's probably the same for a lot of things, like acting and all jobs like that.
Okay. Will we ever see Malice Darkblade in AOS? I doubt it.
I sadly doubt it, as much as Malice was a badass.
Yeah, I've not actually read his last novel, so I don't know how he ends in the end times. But I doubt it. I did think that the Malice Darkblades would be an awesome name for a Stormhost, though, and I was thinking of introducing it into a Hamilcar book somewhere down the road. Because obviously the Malice is the core of the world that was.
And there is a Stormhost called the Sons of Malice.
Yeah, and the Darkblades is just one of those cool second words that you can add to the end of
especially considering that actually some of the, I remember it's in the Stormcast battle tome, that some of the keeps of the Sons of Malice are like chunky blocks of obsidian, so it's like, yeah, that would just fit perfectly.
Please tell me their color scheme's black and white.
Black and purple.
Missed opportunity. They could have tied it in with the Sons of Malice.
The thing is, I did a series. I've got a Stormcast army which is Sons of Malice, and as a joke, because I was sort of in the mood, I named the hobby project series A Town Called Malice based on that exact joke. So, yeah.
But no, I think that's a fair question. I think Malice, Dark Blade, is passed from this world.
Fair enough. Question for Michael.
Oh, no.
Since the Tao have no god and no official religion, would you label the greater good as a quasi-deity, the greater good itself, greater good specifically?
There's sort of two answers. The greater good is itself not a deity. There is, however, based on what we think happened in War of Secrets, a god of the greater good that is starting to manifest within the warp, we think. However,
it's not so much starting. He literally picked up the Force expansion and put them back into real space.
Yeah, but bear in mind,
space fishing.
How long did Slaanesh take to form before it was powerful enough to intervene in the materium? It hasn't done anything
About
in the materium.
30,000 years.
Yeah, it hasn't done anything in the materium yet, so I'm going to work under the assumption it's still forming, but fair enough. As for the greater good itself, the Tauva is, rather than a quasi-deity, more like a quasi-religion, because it dictates your role in life under the caste system. It dictates the way you're supposed to act in terms of following the ethereals. Without it, it brings about the supposed apocalypse for the Tau, the Mont Tau, the extinction level event that was going on before the coming of the ethereals. It's a sort of pseudo-religion because everyone believes and has faith in the greater good, but not necessarily in the idea of a god representing the greater good, if that makes sense.
I like the idea of it, though. It's a wonderful idea.
Because Phil Kelly was War of Secrets, and suffice to say, if I ever have the fortune to get him on this show and pick his brains about Tau, I will be so happy. Once I've got through picking his brains about orcs and got through picking his brains about Sigmar, it'll be a long episode if we ever get Phil Kelly.
The Tau special. That's what it'll be.
The Tau, Sigmar, orcs, and everything I've ever actually really enjoyed as a faction special.
Funny thing is, the earliest thing I remember about Phil Kelly is when he had a Black Templars army in White Dwarf.
I enjoyed Black Templars as well, though. That was the only Space Marines I'd ever collect, would be Black Templars.
I think he was collecting an army as part of a series with Fat Bloke. I can't remember off the top of my head for sure. I miss Fat Bloke. He was awesome. People are probably thinking I'm being very mean, but that's what he was called in White Dwarf. That was literally his nickname.
I'm just confused.
Fat Bloke. He was, for several years, he was the editor of White Dwarf.
He's the editor, wasn't he?
Paul Sawyer. Paul Sawyer was the editor of White Dwarf. He was also a very large lad, and he had the nickname of Fat Bloke. So it was literally just like Paul Sawyer, a.k.a. Fat Bloke. They named a burger after him at Bugman's Bar.
The ultimate crowning achievement of a GW employee, immortalized in Bugman's.
A burger called the Fat Bloke. I like to think it was named after him anyway. It's too much of a coincidence for it not to be, let's be honest.
Probably.
Right. Can an arbitrator become an inquisitor? Anyone can become an inquisitor as long as they have the approval of 3 inquisitors or an inquisitorial lord.
Correct. Mind you, an arbitrator generally will not find themselves as part of an inquisitorial retinue because they're generally confined to one world unless they're then conscripted and then they become an acolyte as opposed to an arbitrator, arguably. So, yes, but it's a bit difficult.
Okay, a former arbitrator then.
Yeah, because once you leave your world, you are an arbitrator, sort of, but you don't have a world to arbitrate over. So, are you an arbitrator? I guess. I'm being
private arbitrator. He's the arbitrator equivalent to a PI.
Yeah, let's go with that.
All he needs is a House Delac trench coat.
And a shotgun.
And a fedora. Painted yellow so he can be Dick Tracy. Oh, please, someone do that. A bunch of arbitrators dressed up as Dick Tracy. Give him little Tommy gun shotguns, you know? That'd be awesome. I'm thinking way too much into this, aren't I?
Yes.
All right, another question for David. Has there been a subject or event that you wanted to write about for Games Workshop, but they told you no? And if so, what subject?
If you're allowed to say.
I've wanting for ages to write an orc dead dog story.
Ooh.
And it always gets kicked back so hard.
How come? Orc dead dog's awesome.
No. Well, I thought so. I thought it would be cool, but not yet. Anyway, I've not given up pitching that one. But yeah, that would be the one, I think.
That's fair.
Fair enough. Oh, an orc dead dog, awesome. That'd be awesome. I'd read that.
Not
Well,
dead
Jerry's
versus
still in
an
the
orc.
codex. Is he still in the codex?
He's got a model, yeah.
Yeah. God.
He got a newer model around the time of the 8th Ed Codex, I think. So yeah, he's around.
I was also talking about doing a Rough Riders novel because I thought it's like fantasy because they're on horses.
Like Mogul Kaimir.
Yeah, the Attillans. I mean, they're not in the codex anymore, are they? But they're definitely part of the lore. Certainly Rough Riders in general. But yeah, I thought that would have been cool. I love the idea of just a mass of horses charging a chaos tank.
I find another connoisseur of chunky, heavy cavalry. I approve.
I mean, in fairness, in regards to them being in the codex or having a model, would that really be relevant considering that in the Crimson Fist novels that, Alessio Cortez was written about, even though he only had a model in like 3rd edition?
Arguably, maybe.
Yeah. No, it's not. I mean, because Cailan Stronus doesn't have a model either, does he? So yeah, you can certainly write about things which aren't models. It's just certain things perhaps aren't necessarily lore anymore.
Yeah, when we got the Primaris Iron Father model back a few months ago, some people were saying, "Oh, this is going to be Cailan Stronus." It wasn't, but some people were hoping that was going to be Stronus.
I still hope that we'll get a Stronus eventually.
I mean, in fairness, we are overdue for any Iron Hands model that isn't, Horus Heresy. Considering what do we have? We have Ferrus Manus and an upgrade sprue, and that's about it.
Pretty much.
Medusan. Or is that... Well, there's rules for him. Is there no miniature for him?
I don't think there's a miniature for Medusan, no. I feel like there isn't.
See, show my ignorance.
Given what happened to an order, I probably won't get one anytime soon.
Zing.
And more. Yeah, there's also Arctic more as well. Again, is there no miniature?
No.
We do need more Iron Hand miniatures in general.
We need more, not the big 5, basically.
That's why I really wanted to write about them because they are a little underloved. I feel.
Yeah, because they got the
players who are underloved.
Yeah, they got the Clan Rokan supplement, which I don't know if was that maybe before you really got signed up with the team anyway. But the Clan Rokan supplement sort of laid out the origin of Stronus' rise, the Chapter Master, and the Sapphire King.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fascinating read, and that was like the only Iron Hands we got until you turned up.
Yeah, because the Raven Guard and the White Scars at least got Damocles Crusade, didn't they?
They did. With Corsaro versus Shadow Sun being a novel all on its own.
I mean, is there actually another Loyalist chapter that's actually gotten less of a spotlight than the Iron Hands?
The Imperial Fists don't get loads.
Well, they had the Beast of Rises, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of all the first founding chapters. Probably not. Blood Angels, Dark Angels.
Flesh Terrors?
They're not first founding now, are they?
Oh, yeah. They're second founding. Sorry, I forgot my own rules.
and they've got at least 3 books.
Raven Guard, Scars, Salamanders.
You got a full series from Nick.
Yeah. I'm not sure about game rules. So.
They got Vulcan Hestan. The Iron Hands got nobody.
Okay, moving on to another question. How much ammo does a typical Astartes carry?
Probably not loads. Like, every shot's a kill shot, so you take as much as you think you need for the given mission. Probably.
I think the reason people are asking this is because their models don't have anything like, spare ammo clips or ammo pouches or anything like that, even though you hear descriptions of them in novels of them slamming new clips into their guns and stuff.
I mean, some of the ones from like Shadow Spear, like the Infiltrators, I think they've got ammo because they've got all the bandoliers and stuff. Same with the Primaris Reavers. But yeah, I think it's sort of if you look at Space Marine as an example, it's the best example we've got. Like Titus carries around 200, 300 rounds in his bolter. I think it's 30 and 270. I think it's 300 rounds that he carries around for his bolt gun at max. But that's obviously video game, third-party source, not potentially canon compliant.
Yeah, because he's also carrying a bolter, a las cannon, a melter gun, and a bolt pistol and chainsaws all at the same time.
And sometimes a jet.
Sometimes a jetpack, and sometimes a thunder hammer.
Yes. And he's fighting invisible orcs.
I don't remember that.
And being the shortest Space Marine on record.
That was a glitch that happened to me during a playthrough. Like the bit where you first fight Grimskull. Like, he glitched out, so he just wasn't there in the cutscene. I'm like, where is he? What's going on?
Fight from Jedi Knight, isn't it?
It was a purple orc.
Yeah, and didn't you say to me the other day that Titus is like the shortest Space Marine on record?
No, I didn't say he was the shortest one. I just said in regards to that picture, he looked very short. The shortest one is actually from... I think it's from one of the Deathwatch novels, actually. Where he's like only 6 feet tall. Yeah, it's like one who's only 6 feet tall.
Oh, the Imperial Fist.
Yeah.
Voss. Maximilian Voss.
Yeah.
Also known as Omni, I think. Because I'm reading that.
Yeah, he's like the size of a large man. That's about it.
Yeah, I'm reading that novel right now. They don't make a mention of Voss's height in Shadowbreaker, so I can't remember what he was like in the first novel.
Didn't they say that he was the same across, though? He was also like 6.5 feet wide.
Possibly. It's been many years since I read the first one, unfortunately.
I don't know if you've seen Steve Parker, but he's a very, very big, muscular fellow. He knows all about his weightlifting scenes and his training scenes that he puts Voss through.
I was wondering, is this his self-insert character?
Could be.
And, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. But hey.
Okay. Just look for another question. Another question from Michael.
Oh no.
If the Ethereals were killed off, what would the Tau Empire and the Enclave do?
Pretty much what they're doing now, probably. The Enclaves have proved that you don't need Ethereals to work, and they maintained basically everything, because the greater good overrules the Ethereals anyway, at least by Enclave's logic. So the forecast will remain. They'll probably be led by an Elemental Council, maybe by a Chasso, maybe by a Poro, depending on what you need at the time. In terms of a reunification, you may see a reunification if Shadow Sun takes command. Maybe she'll abandon her hunt for Oshova and the two will communicate in some way. We don't know. But generally, I feel like it'll just be carried on as normal, just with no Ethereals, because that's what the Enclaves did.
Fair enough.
I know it's the boring answer, but it's probably the most likely, because we've seen what happens when Ethereals die.
Okay, another question for David. Are you going to write a novel about the Hospitalis chapter?
I'd love to if Black Library wanted one. I did love going to town on them in Voice of Mars. Yeah, I really enjoyed in Voice of Mars, looking at all the chapters I use, apart from the Iron Hands, weird ones, because I figured that there are just as many Hospitallers or Knights of Dawn or exsanguinators in the galaxy as there are Black Templars or Space Wolves. So you should be as likely to encounter these weird and lesser known ones as you are a First Founder. So I loved sort of exploring those. And yeah, Hospitallers. I wanted to make something that was more creepy than the Iron Hands.
That takes some doing. The
So-
Iron Hands in that era were terrifying.
Mm. So you had to have something that might scare them. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. I mean, I guess Aaron's sort of created his Spears of the Emperor. I'd love to do something similar with the Hospitallers, if it was allowed.
And I'm still waiting for someone to write a novel about the Rainbow Warriors.
You'll be there another decade, I expect.
Considering I think the last time we got any mention of them was in that Death Watch audio drama by Gav Thorpe, Mission Purge, because they got name dropped in that, and because there was like a Black Shield, and that Space was trying to guess what chapter the Black Shield's from, and he's like, "Are you from the Rainbow Warriors?" It's like, "Oh, the Rainbow Warriors, they're proud sons of Gilliman." Yes, but their name.
We had a conversation. I think it might have been a Black Library weekend about how anti-plant weapons aren't in the game anymore, and we all sort of decided that we were going to put anti-plant in our next books, and I did. I think it was Voice of Mars actually has the reference to the anti-plant weapons. So I think in the old game rules, maybe second ed, they were a missile that could remove forests from the game. That's all they did.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know if anyone else followed through on that yet, but I did.
Okay, and final question for David Guymer. I say final because just going on time.
Yeah.
What made you want to write stuff for Warhammer?
I played it forever. I think I was 12. I guess it goes a bit further back. I started with Space Crusade. That was my intro. And then I saw a box of Gene Stealers and made the connection to Space Crusade. Didn't know it was something different at the time. And then bought White Dwarf, and it was 182. I was interested, and I was hooked. It was about Skaven and Chaos Dwarfs, I think, that issue. And they had a big feature on Ikit Claw. And he became my favourite character. He led my armies for many years, and yeah, I had a bit of a lapse while I was at university and stuff. But I still read Black Library, and when I started thinking about writing, and then when I found about the submission window, it was just, I just did it. I mean, if I hadn't written for Black Library, I would have tried writing someone else, but I couldn't have asked for a better fit for myself than Black Library.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's very fair. I understand the whole difficulty with hobby at university as well, because I've just graduated from university now, and the first couple of years, I admit, I've had this channel longer than I've been at university, so I had a reason to stay engaged with the lore, with the models, with playing the game. But with the amount of time that university took and still takes, it can be a real drain on your hobby time and probably hobby enthusiasm as well.
It was mainly because I couldn't physically bring everything with me. I did a little bit of role play, so Warhammer role playing and other role playing there, but not a lot. And I just got back into it a bit when I went back home again afterwards, but didn't really get properly back into it until after I started writing for them. I mean, that sort of rekindled all the enthusiasm.
Yeah, totally understand that. I suck at writing. I can write scripts about other people's lore, but I can't write my own. So I understand completely the bug you get when you start doing the research and creating this story. I get it. I really get it. And let's just say, as a Sigmar person, I'm very glad you did, because much as some people complain about some of the things Ferrus Manus does because memes, the Sigmar stuff just Yeah. Just brilliant.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I want to get as many books as Josh Reynolds.
That will be impressive at the
That's
speed.
all I want. Just as many books as Josh Reynolds.
The speed at which that man reportedly writes, you'll do well to catch him up.
Who's the faster writer, him or Gav?
Guy. Guy's the quickest writer of them all.
His hands are literally like that scene from Ghost in the Shell where it just splits into like about a billion fingers.
He's like Arnold Rimmer when he has the brain patch and he's doing two tests at once. If anyone's seen Red Dwarf 6, 4, 5.
No, sorry.
Nah, Red Dwarf was never for me, before my time.
That's why I win everyone. I'm sure all your listeners will get it.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, is there any other last questions for the group, Rem, or do you want to wrap up?
Given the time, it might be time to wrap up now. Or
Okay.
coming up close to it.
Yeah, fair enough. So, yeah, that will be basically everything, unless anyone's got anything else to add, any last comments, remarks, questions, shout-outs, whatever.
No, I'm here.
Okay. So that will be episode 76 of Adeptus Podcastus. A very big thank you to David Guymer for taking time out of his very busy writing schedule, I'm sure, to come and sit down with us and chat nonsense about Warhammer for 2 hours. It's very much appreciated.
Great. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Someone to talk to for...
Yeah, I get that. And we'll maybe be in touch one day, because I've always wanted to get all our Black Library contacts back together one day for what I've termed the Black Library conference call, where we do an introduction, sit back, and let the authors argue for as long as they want. I'd love to do that one day, but yeah. But thank you very much for everyone sent the questions in. No need to preview the guests next time, because I don't even think we know. But for now, this has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And this is David Guymer.
Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and goodbye.